Hey folks, hope you're all doing well and welcome to episode 15 of Recommend an Album to Review. So quickly, how the show works is I listen to a record over the course of a week. I generally put these up every Thursday at 6 o'clock, and the records that I'm reviewing are records that you recommend. So in the comments to this episode, if there's an album that you would like me to listen to and give a review the following week, please put those below. Criteria, no double albums, just a single album, no epics. Pretty much, and it has to be a band that I haven't already covered on the show. So, I've covered quite a few bands over the years. So, but that's the criteria. So, anyways, moving along for this week. This was a band that I'd heard of, but I'd never listened to any of their music. And funny enough, when I looked them up, they were actually local. They're from Toronto. So this album came out in 2002. It's called Weight of the World. The band is called Harum Scarum. All right. So this band, at least on this record anyway, they are what I guess you would call a pop, hard rock pop or metal pop or whatever. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of heavy guitar in it and that, but at the same time, there's a lot of pop melodies and, very hooky choruses and that sort of thing. And when bands do that, where they kind of try and strike the balance being, between being heavy and at the same time being pop, generally, it's a tough thing to do because if it's too poppy, it's kind of starts to get a little saccharine, and if it's too heavy, then you kind of lose a little bit of the melodic sense at times. So, but these guys, they do a pretty good job. I mean, there are songs for me that are a little more on the pop side, and I wish there was a little more heavy guitar, but for the most part, they pretty much strike that balance pretty well. A couple of things. Notable things that I'll mention right off the top is the guitar playing on this record is fantastic, and the guitar player was a gentleman by the name of Peter L'Esperance. Probably not saying that right. And the lead vocals, Harry Hess, great voice, really good, really good singer, really great songwriting, well crafted songs. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff here that really could, real ear-friendly stuff that should have been or could have been on the radio. But anyway, let's go into the tracks. So the first track is Weight of the World, which is the title cut. And Weight of the World, it's, it's an acoustic song that kind of builds. It is, it has a light and shade going on. It's a pretty good track. It's a good opening track for sure. Not a bad song. Not a bad song. Let's move on to Killing Me. So Killing Me starts off with a lead line that is, again, super hooky. Kind of, really sucks you in. Not a bad song, and it's got one of those, very, radio friendly sing along kind of choruses, which they do a lot on this record. All right, the next track, Outside Your Window. It's got some really nice guitar playing in that. Again, really nice, nice melody on the verses, and the verses and the choruses are hooks. I mean, everything is a hook on this record, and but the standout for me is that guitar solo in Outside Your Window. That guitar solo is fantastic. Again, the lead player is incredible on this. So the next track is All I Want. So again, All I Want starts off with kind of heavy, and then it takes a step back and kind of quiets down over the verses, and again, a lot of melody, a lot of the one thing I small criticism that I will have, the songs, because of that pop element, at some point I think they kind of start to sound a little bit similar, at least in the top half of the record. But that's just a minor criticism. But and you know, by the time All I Want comes on, it's like, man, it's starting to kind of sound a little bit like Outside Your Window and maybe a little bit like Killing Me, but you know. But anyway, let's move on to the next track, which is This Ain't Over. This Ain't Over is the ballad, I guess. And it's not, the typical ballad in a rock record, right? But it's not cheesy. I think it's actually really pretty. I really like the vocal on this. Like singer whose name I've forgotten already is really really good. So it's not a bad ballad. After that, there's a short instrumental called Internude, which is some really beautiful acoustic guitar playing on that. There's another instrumental later on which I'll talk about, but the instrumental kind of reminds me of I'm so bad with names, but there's an Extreme record where Nuno's playing acoustic and I think it's called Midnight Express maybe. That name sings to. Anyways, it sort of reminds me a bit of that, but that instrumental, it's short, but it's really, really good. The next track is You Ruined Everything. Now, this one is a little bit different. I mean, I find the second half of the record, basically, there's before the interludes, and then there's the after. And the after part, like this song, for example, has got sort of that like pop punk kind of feel to it, you know. And I don't know, like there's a couple of songs, I'll mention them as we go through, but there's a couple of songs that give me a kind of remind me of Cheap Trick a little bit, and I love Cheap Trick. So, it's the top half of the record. You know, they're a heavy band and being melodic, and they seem to kind of sound a little more pop punky, if that makes any sense. You know, I think like Blink 182, Green Day type of idea. And I don't know. I generally I prefer, for some reason, I prefer the back half of this record to the front half. But and that's kind of where they start to do it with that the first track, You Ruined Everything. All right, next track is Charmed Life. Starts off with like a really sort of heavy distorted bass, and then it turns into like this soaring, pop song with this soaring chorus. I mean, that thing's got radio written all over it. I don't know if that ever made it to the radio. I have no idea, but that is a bona fide radio hit, Charmed Life. Like I dig that track, and again, I hear that, those Cheap Trick kind of sprinklings in there as well. So, all right, the next track is called If You. If You is probably one of my favorite songs on here. Again, it's super hooky, super melodic. It's not trying to be anything but. Again, I get a Cheap Trick vibe, but yeah, I really dig If You. The next track is Seesaw. That is an instrumental, and it's a really good instrumental. Yeah, it's just some really great playing on it. It's it's a pop instrumental. Like it's just really catchy. Yeah, I really dig Seesaw. And the last track, Voice Inside, might be my favorite song on this whole record. Yeah, Voice Inside is it's a killer. Actually, I hear a little bit of Extreme on that, some of the guitar parts, but that is a really good song. So yeah, so there you have it. So, what can I say about this record? I kind of mentioned a bunch of things already, but I guess to summarize, it is heavy guitar with a lot of pop melody, a lot of pop sensibility, a lot of catchy hooks. There's stuff here that is radio friendly. I will mention this though, because as soon as you start talking heavy guitar and pop, this is not Bon Jovi. Okay, this is a little more heavy. The guitars, you can be heard. They're not, buried with a keyboard. I mean, they're there. So in that regard, it's and I'm not a huge fan of Bon Jovi, but this I dig. So yeah, just some heavy guitar, some really good melody, very polished record. The production sounds great. if I was to rate this record, I would probably give it a 3.5. Yeah, that's where I would rate it. Why not higher? Mentioning earlier about that sort of mix of pop and heavy, I would prefer if it was a little more heavy and a little less pop, but that's just me. That's just me, right? If I hear heavy guitar, I want to hear more rock, vocals and things and not so much poppy stuff. But like that's me. And the other criticism, like I said, it's just, at least in the top half of the record, that it just starts to sound a little samey from track to track because you know of that pop element. But there you go. So again, the record is I forgot the name of it already. Weight of the World came out in 2002. The band is called Harum Scarum. So if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe. If there's a record you want me to check out for next week's show, drop that in the comments. Have a great rest of your week. I will catch you later. Cheers.